I would say for me, like in the MCU, to okay, like you met this girl, this hot girl, and y'all had this amazing relationship in the beginning. Everything was good, sex was good, the conversation was good, and then after 6 months, you find out that she gave you chlamydia.
It is Monday the 19th of May, and you are listening to the Four Outsiders Comics Podcast, brought to you by Skylarkin Media.
Heads up. This podcast features strong language, adult themes, and the occasional colorful metaphor. Listener discretion is advised. As for the views, they're all ours. The smart ones, the spicy ones, and the occasional madness. Skylarkin Media Inc. and its affiliates reserve the right to deny all involvement.
Hey, everybody. This is episode 4 of the Four Outsiders Comics Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Wade Rum Sour Alleyne, and we are back to discuss and dissect the high art form that is comics. With me are my three esteemed co-hosts. Why don't you fine gentlemen introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm feeling pressure now because they don't have a cool
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
a
You
little
didn't name
code
it.
name. All right.
Yeah,
Oh, think about that for next time.
All right. Hello everyone. I'm Michael from Bleecker Street. Yes, I'll go with that.
Just said Bleecker Street,
Yes.
sir. My name is Glen.
yeah. I want to get into it. So,
My name is Glen, also
yeah.
known as Glen the Sage or the Rasta Mage. Either one can work, right? And I
Great
too
man.
am from Bleecker Street. Yes, the original tenant.
Uh, oh, Michael's a
The squatter. Hi.
He's not even Wong. Come on, he's a squatter. Wow.
anyway, fellas.
He's
This week, although I did get some good Batman books out of it, so I'm really happy about that. Nothing from. Oh,
You and
I was
this
waiting for you to do.
Batman
Yeah, I was
fetish,
waiting to
bro.
hear from you. Yeah. So you're telling me you didn't read Absolute Batman?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Ah, right. Good. Confirmation received.
Wow. Okay, that
Should I
was
say this right?
confirmation. No, I was wondering how did that qualify as
That's
confirmation?
confirmation. If he didn't read it, he would have said he didn't read it. So he's ashamed to admit that he read it. So we're gonna jump right in on our books we read this week, and Michael's gonna take us out with his pick, which was Godzilla versus what was it again, Mike?
Well, it's a series going, but that is titled Godzilla versus America. And with each one in the series, it's basically focusing on a different state within the United States. And each state, they have about 4 to 5 mini chapters within the book. So I've already done the first one, which was the Chicago. So it was Godzilla versus America, Chicago. And then I just did the second one, which is Los Angeles. And it had 4 mini stories within it. My favorite was the first one. The second and third mini stories, the art, especially for the third one, the art was really killing me. It was hard to get through. Honestly, I was thinking of skimming through, but I said, no, I'm going to read it. But the art made it so hard. But the fourth one picked up and was a nice ending to it with a whole kind of Los Angeles coming together to fight back the, dreaded Godzilla. But the first one called into question some I was like, that would never fly. But for different reasons than people are thinking. So it starts off with 2 reporters for the news doing the traffic report. And they're saying, oh, traffic backed up from this place to that. I can't remember whatever else. But next thing you know, they look to their left and there is a basically US fighter jet telling them to clear the airspace. And they're like, okay, why is the military here? They round this hillside now, and standing in front of them is Godzilla, big and bold in downtown Los Angeles. And the military is basically telling them, hey, it is dangerous, clear the airspace. When one of the reporters decides, hey, this is a prime opportunity. I mean, and so his colleague is like, what? What are you talking about? We have to leave, bro. Military's here. Godzilla's lighting up the place. And he's like, yeah, but nobody else is here to cover this story. We could be the ones to do it. And I immediately, I mean, you try to suspend disbelief when you're reading comics, but it was so hard to do in this because the one suggesting to stay and try to cover this story was a black reporter named Tom. I have never known any kind of black Tom to stay around danger. None.
I guess he was a
I
real
mean, there
Uncle Tom.
was, there was one a time that, decided to take a bunch of kids into a prison, but hey, he learned that lesson the hard way. No pun intended. I just realized how that sounded. I'm like, okay, no. So the hell out of there. What are you doing? You're making us look bad. But they decide they're going to stay, cover Godzilla. A drone comes out of nowhere, clips the back of their chopper. Chopper starts to crash. They have to bail out. Where are they going to bail out to? On Godzilla back. So now the two of them on Godzilla back trying to still cover the story. And I'm like, okay, I respect you, Tom. But here's the thing. Tom, this comic made me realize that the worst place to be when there's a Godzilla attack is, I originally thought, in front of him, because clearly that's not where you want to be, or under him, because all you would see is one giant foot. So, being under Godzilla is no fun place to be, unless you're Mothra. Wink, wink. But these people on back, and the military decide, yeah, we're trying to rescue like 2 people. We have millions to think about. Launch them missiles. We're trying to direct him to the sea. And every missile seemed to just be aimed at Godzilla back. And these two are out there trying to cover a story. And I'm just laughing my ass off. And like, yeah, you see, Tom? But they made it safely. I'm not going to try to spoil everything, but they made it off safely. I mean, he should Pulitzer Prize for that. But apart from that, the rest of the stories went along everybody's individual stories, but that was my favorite one. And that is my conclusion.
All right, cool, Godzilla. I did not into this. I am not into the Marvel versus Godzilla books. I don't have any interest in Godzilla, but I did like seeing them interact with the Marvel universe. So I do read those, but this one I had to take a pass on. But I'm glad you're enjoying it. So yeah, go Godzilla.
Pretty much the same. I feel like it is weirdly and suddenly overexposed, and
It is very strange.
I don't have like I remember when we I think episode 1, sure we talked about a Godzilla book in a previous episode. Yeah, listeners, if you can tell us in the comments, let us know. But it feels like out of nowhere, Godzilla is everywhere.
I think we said
And
it because of the movies that were coming out, so they pushing like Glen would have talked about that too as well.
it just feels too much,
Yeah.
too soon, and I
Something-
don't have the bandwidth for it, really. I didn't read the book. We've got another Godzilla book that I think is Glen's pick. I didn't buy this book, Mike. It isn't on radar in any real.
Man, you're gonna have to give Godzilla a break, Godzilla ain't no overexposed, not any more than those Disney characters were overexposed, or the Scooby-Doo Cartoon Network characters were overexposed last year or like a couple months ago. We were getting them like every other week or something like that. And then we had that series where Donald Duck was it Donald? Yeah, Donald Duck was like different Marvel characters. What if Donald Duck was Thor? What if Donald Duck was Wolverine? What if Donald Duck was this or Donald Duck was that? The man is having a renaissance. It ain't overexposure. Like I got
I
two
didn't care for
books.
all that either. So
I got two books, but I ain't along with them. The first is Godzilla versus the
God
X.
damn, Morgan.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's up
God.
because I'm an X-Men guy. So there ain't no way that book got past me by. Right? So I pick it up. Classic X-Men. Okay, classic costumes and whatnot.
Was it, when you say classic, was it, I think I saw it was the 90s version.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Right,
man.
not okay.
Scott, it is this classic 90s where you got Storm
Love
in
it,
a
love it,
nice,
love it.
yeah. She's around with the Thundercloud hairstyle, though. Is the classic hairstyle. And then the training room, okay? Again, classic X-Men setup. They're in the training room, they're running their stuff. Spider-Man is there, and they're showing, Spidey the ropes and whatnot. Then Godzilla basically no. Sunspot, the from Fire Japan. They're having some issues over there
Sunfire.
with God. Yeah,
Sunfire.
Sunfire. They're having with Godzilla because Godzilla is wrecking this company's stuff by the seaside. And so the X-Men is called in because the government has tried everything. And there's a there that I found pretty interesting where the heads of the military and so on, they're there and they're formulating a strategy. And one of them is like, why don't we just throw big explosive stuff at him? And they're like, yeah, as if we haven't tried that before. It's not gonna work. I thought that was pretty hilarious. So they call in the X-Men and we got a pretty good team on the roster. All right, we had Cyclops, Storm, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Professor X, and Beast. Yeah, and they sent Gambit to an unknown facility to steal something, which turned out to be the Super Adaptoid. And I thought that was great because the last time I saw Super Adaptoid, um, I think he went in war on the Avengers. I think it was. He had that's the last time I think I
Yeah,
saw that guy. Yeah,
yeah,
and I
he's
thought that
Marvel's a
he's pretty. I thought he was pretty cool because he's a throwback, and in all that classic feel, he just fits right in. Because that fight that he had with the X-Men way back when they were teens, that was a pretty cool fight as well. Because he really put them through their paces, as an adaptive opponent that can mimic their abilities and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. And they did this sort of like Voltron thing. So they did a meld, a gestalt, into the super adaptoid and send him on his way to fight Godzilla. And for a brief moment, they do that thing where they have their fighting, and then they realize that they share similar purpose, and so they team up to fight against the evil company, which happened to produce a sentinel that was made up of three of Godzilla's enemies. I can't remember their names, but there was like a snake one and like a moth one and stuff like that. And there was this big epic showdown between Godzilla and Super Adaptoid versus this weird chimera-like sentinel thing, kaiju battle out in the Japanese waters. It was pretty cool. Nothing fanciful, nothing deep. It's just eye candy and eye candy for old heads like us. Basically, that's essentially what it was. And I loved it. Okay. I didn't really like the part where they were talking down to my boy Logan, Wolverine. I didn't like that. That was a bit rude and condescending, you know. But differently, it was fun read, you know.
Shout out to our boy Lamel, biggest Logan fan we know.
Yeah. Snick it. Oh gosh. He gonna abuse us, you know. He gonna abuse us for
Yeah,
this
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. No, for sure.
And my second book was Doctor Strange of Asgard. All right. So the third issue came out this week, and I had to catch up because I had like the second book outstanding, and then read the third one. So I will say this, okay? The artwork in this book has been good. It's been very pleasing to my eyes. The characters are framed very well. The models are great. Um, the lines, everything, the details that I like, because I like fine details. There's that. And it's just a beautiful book to look at. Okay. The action is on point as well. I mean, for a Western book, but I ain't gonna get into that. Right. But the action is okay. And there's nothing really wrong with the book, technically by itself. There's nothing wrong with the book. You pick it up, it's a murder mystery, okay, that Doctor Strange is on a mission to solve, because it appears to be a straightforward thing, but clearly it is not, because once you have Loki involved in it, nothing is ever as it seems. So he's on that. Why is Doctor Strange in Asgard? Is because he's currently unemployed as a magician and he's looking job elsewhere. Because as usual, Doctor Strange cannot be in a position of strength at any point in time, unless it's the ending of a story. Okay, so Doctor Strange is out. He's in Asgard because he's looking to become the Sorcerer Supreme of Asgard. Because guess what? Asgard never had a Sorcerer Supreme, so I guess there's an opening, and he's looking to fill that position. The Asgardians are a bit. The Asgardians are Asgardians. And the way they tend to paint Asgardians is a bunch of wild barbarian people that either partying all the time or fighting all the time and are largely clueless as to how functional beings operate. Right? So they're doing their thing, and Doctor Strange is trying to convince them why they need a Sorcerer Supreme. And in the middle of all of that, you know, one of the persons that is trying to guide him to learn Asgardian magic, because of the technicalities, you can't use mortal magic in Asgard for any significant period of time, else the potency fades. So basically, they're trying to say you use the magic of the place that you're in, you know, while you're there. And she gets murdered, and he has to solve it. Now, this book is essentially peak MCU. Okay, you find MCU in its heyday, and this is exactly what this book is. It reads like a Marvel movie, like Phase 2, Phase 3 Marvel movie. It reads like that, and I think in a way that's what's kind of pissing me off, because in a doctor's book, I don't really want a murder mystery. I'm here mysteries of the universe. Yes, I'm here to see cosmic stuff. I'm here to see weird, wacky, psychological stuff as well. I'm not here for a whodunit, you know, and that was kind of boring me a bit. But in regards to like a whodunit, how that works, it's fine. It's doing its job. Okay. I don't have complaints for the technical aspects of it. I can't complain on that. It's a fine book. But from a non-technical point of view, from a more biased and opinionated stance, this ain't my bag. But the humor is there. It reads very well. The flow, the pacing is pretty good. You will get a chuckle. It's a beautiful book again, so visually it will be hitting all the right notes so far. And it's just an all-round solid book, but just not my bag. Will I finish it? Of course, yes. Because we'll see how that goes. So yeah, that's my take.
I feel what you're putting down here, Glenn. This book, like you said, is technically solid. To me, it feels like a TV writer writing this comic as an audition to get into the MCU. It feels offbeat.
A Netflix movie.
Police procedural Netflix movie. Yeah. Does it bad? No, I don't think so. But is not it doesn't put it puts more of a focus on the Doctor than the Strange. If it makes like you said, the Strange is supposed to be like otherworldly, supernatural, cosmic magic shenanigans. This is a lot more grounded, you know. So, but it isn't. I think the characterizations are solid. I like the perspective, the kind of like street level perspective on Asgard. from Asgard is very much like upper city, Thor, his family, the ruling family, the Warriors 3 thing. This is like street level, ordinary Asgardians. But like you said, there are like perpetual, alcoholic berserker type people. But there's a lot of humor there. So
Yeah, for me, I kind of agree with what you guys are saying on some levels, and I disagree on certain aspects. For me, this book was I do a mystery aspect. I love a good murder mystery. I get what Glen's saying about Doctor Strange being cosmic and mystical and stuff, but that aspect of it is good. What I am not a fan of, well, for them started to start on the art. I'm not a fan of the art, but I don't
why
like
are you such a art snob though?
it's not my style. It's a little loose and it's a little inconsistent for me. First, that's how I say it. The story, as far as it goes, it was interesting seeing these, for lack of a better term, and doing quotes as well, normal Asgardians, because these aren't the royal, godly Asgardians. These are people in the streets, which are still superior to human beings. So it's interesting seeing what their day-to-day lives are like. As for the other aspect, MCU feel of it, cracking the jokes and the quipping, that shit rubbed the wrong way. I was completely annoyed. But other than that, it was a good story. I would prefer to see it as a story without Doctor Strange and without Asgardians because of how MCU-ish it felt. But I've been reading the book from day one, and I will keep reading it just to see how Doctor Strange ends up. And I like the ending where Thor and Sif show up. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but I'm looking forward to see how that plays out.
For me, um, I don't know. The book rubbed me a wrong way, not in the storyline or anything, but in like the decision Strange took, like to run away. I understand that in a way Doom tricked you out of your job, which he's been trying to do for God knows how long now. But still, to say you're just going to just straight up run away, like, come on, man. That it don't feel like Strange to me. I mean, you just abandon your house, your dog, your wife, and gone trying to get a job in like literally another country. What is that? It just felt soft to me. On top of that, I was like, okay, even if you're technically not the sorcerer supreme, Doom is still not out magicking you. Especially when you have that weird future 1,000-year-old Vashanti version of yourself, like sipping pina coladas and just taking mental health lessons in your basement. Like, there were other options other than running away. And you're going to run to Asgard, the place that is basically just magic and mystery 24/7? Oh, wait, no, that actually kind of makes sense. But apart from that, the whole him running, like in some way, I don't like the aspect of it. But I am somewhat enjoying the story regardless.
You
What
know,
about
you know what I
gameplay?
found to be interesting where Doctor Strange is concerned. I'm not sure if it was during the Donny Cates run, or I think it might have been Mark Wade that was on there. When they had Doctor Strange, again he lost his powers because what is the Sorcerer Supreme if he doesn't have if he actually has powers, God forbid. But he had to go to other planets and learn the magics of those other planets. He goes out into space and he's traveling. And he's learning stuff and he's learning how to forge magical weapons and stuff like that. And learn other types and styles of magic, accessing different sources of magic and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. I would love to see more of that, but sadly, no, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, even that I would say, like, roughly going to find solutions, not running away.
Yeah, I forgot what you were saying about General Strange being in the basement. That is true, but he does have cards he can play. But I guess we just talking about this book on its own merits. So, but yeah, there are other things he could do. Neither here nor there, I guess. Oh, Gibson, you want to talk about your book?
Oh yeah, for sure. I've got notes and everything. All right. So, my book, my pick this week is Red Sonja Attacks Mars #2. Now, I went into this comic warm and sideways. Now, here's what I mean by that. Dynamite did this series, Vampirella the dark powers. I'm not looking to jump into here, but that led to Vampirella ending up on the same Project Superpowers team with Red Sonja and rubbing each other the wrong way in this classic comic book fashion before teaming up to take down this common foe. That is what put this issue of Red Sonja Attacks Mars #2 on my radar. I was like, ooh, another Red Sonja crossover. And I remember the original Mars Attacks movie vaguely from back in the day. So all of that is what I mean by coming into this issue lukewarm and sideways. Now, what stood out for me most was the feeling of nostalgia from this issue, of being a child and getting my hands on a comic and being barely aware of the characters involved. Now, I know what Mars Attacks is. I know who Red Sonja is, but there's this distance here was frankly refreshing. Now, this book it's written by Jay Stevenson. I can't claim to know like who he is, with art by Fran Struckan. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And the series blends sword and sorcery with this retro sci-fi vibe and a dark economy. The issue starts with like following the action, Red Sonja and some random sorcerer. I don't remember his name. I don't really care. But they're on this sci-fi flying sled. And Sonja's got this equally sci-fi energy blaster, and she's going ham on some flying gargoyle type creatures. Again, I don't care. I don't have an idea what's going on, and I honestly love that. So Red Sonja needs the sorcerer alive, because she's more like accustomed by, or rather my impression of Red Sonja is she's more accustomed chopping off the heads of the sorcerers. But anyway, so she needs this particular sorcerer alive. His magic is that he can presto change your people. So he can turn women into men into babies, general comic book absurdism. And it was Red Sonja, she has a mad-on for the Martians from Mars Attacks. Because this issue is part of the series, but this series itself, the sequel to Mars Attacks Red Sonja series from something like 5 years ago. Anyway, so if you like Red Sonja, if you like Mars Attacks, if you like absurdist humor, sword and sorcery, sci-fi mashups, plus you're looking for an uncomplicated read that you can turn off your brain and escape into, definitely check this out.
Okay, so let me start with saying how mad I am at you for making me read this book. Secondly, it appears that you did not read the first one. Am I correct?
That's correct. I just
So
jumped on the second book.
So I'm extra mad because in preparation for this one, I went and read the first one. So I read both issues. I hated this book. I hated everything about it. I hated the art. I hated the story. I found it was just stupid to me. I didn't like Sonja seemed overly dramatic, and it didn't fit the vibe of the story. I know you can sometimes mix drama and comedy or that kind of fantasy with comedy, but it did not work for me. I just I was just mad every page I turned. Just getting madder and madder, more mad. I was like, I am gonna cuss Mark for making me read this. So I will not be continuing with it. I just needed to let you know how I felt.
That's fair. I
Wow.
felt that trying to read. There was another crossover, Red Sonja and Evil Dead. Yeah, that what you felt reading this is how I felt reading that.
I
So
find these
I
Dynamite books, these are really hit or miss. Sometimes you can get a really good one, or you can get some hot trash.
I mean fair, but again, like I went into this book cold, and I was who I was. I didn't have any like connection to it. You are definitely of a comic book art aficionado that I am. I am like these stories and the characters, and I was entertained. So
No, I know that maybe if I had read the second one cold, I might have enjoyed it more. But reading the first one just made me angry, and the second one didn't help. That might be it.
maybe because I just had with it, and like I said, it was like picking up a random comic book at like a yard sale on a spinner rack, and that's all you had to go on. For me, that was a turn off my brain. I didn't have any expectations, so yeah.
Fair enough. Glenn, Mike, you guys read Red Sonja Attacks Mars.
Nope. Honestly, I have never read a Red Sonja book A Day in My Life. The most I know about her is that she's married to Wolverine.
Sorry, what?
What? What?
What?
Married to Wolverine. That's the most I know about Red Sonja.
Based on
That's
what?
worry to Wolverine. When does this happen? This is a what if or something?
No, that's a legitimate thing that happened in Marvel at some point. I'm not sure when. I can't really remember. I have to go look that
You
back up.
sure?
But yeah,
You
she
sure you
was
got it? You
Wolverine.
sure you got it? You
Yeah,
sure you got it right, character?
was yes, she was married to Wolverine. The
Are you
man
sure you
has
have the right
been
character?
everywhere.
Look at me going on this random like Google.
Yeah, I ain't searching too. I got to see what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just here
There
cracking
was
up. Michael probably pulled something off of Wikipedia.
no, he's right. Wolverine wants Mar yeah, it was a what if it seems like yeah. Wolverine
Yes,
wants for Red Sonja the Barbarian and married Red. Okay. Mike, come on, man. Come
the
on.
only thing I know of her. That's all I'm saying.
You made it like it was canon. It's from what if Wolverine Bible Conan the Barbarian. Okay, fair enough.
Yo,
I never, I,
if
Huh?
play psychic, okay, fortune teller at this point, I'm gonna predict or assume that Mike went on the internet with the question burning in his mind and in his heart. How many women did Wolverine marry? And this is where he got his information from. Because I know he ain't read no book.
The map most
I'm
obscure
not.
fact that you can imagine about Red Sonja there.
I learned something tonight. I gotta tell
No,
you, woo.
Glenn has no idea how scarily close he is to the actual truth.
I believe him. I can see it.
Yeah, yeah, I see it.
It's like looking for how many women Wolverine has ever married or been with or anything. I was actually trying to do a survey in my head about who had the most children in the 616, and it kind of came out to a fight between either Wolverine or Hulk. And I was doing research into it.
Well, my flabbers are sufficiently gassed. So you win that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, you
Well
win that
done.
one. You win that one. Right. So moving on. Moving on. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about my book now. This week my book was really unexpected. Came out at totally field for me.
Wait, it's not a Batman.
Book, can you believe it?
I cannot. No.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Well,
honestly,
Absolute Batman.
I thought it was going to be the chapter that dropped.
Thought it was gonna be the what?
You know, it didn't read the new chapter for Absolute Batman.
Yeah, it did. It did. It was less than
Yeah,
impressed with that. The first part
yeah,
of the
that's
book,
what I knew
crazy.
to
Yeah,
be a pick.
yeah. I wasn't very impressed. So no, my I had seen solicits there was a Supergirl book coming out, and I was like rolling my eyes. I was like, oh, I see Supergirl books before. I have no interest in Supergirl, especially since she was in the recent Superman books with that stupid jacket costume that I hate. I character. But something I'm not sure what made me pick up this book. Maybe it was just to say, yeah, it was right. It's complete shite. But Supergirl number one, yeah. I saw the first page. I was like, yeah, that's a little rubbish. Second page, I was still rolling my eyes. But the third page is what it got me. This book is fantastic. For all intents and purposes, it's a Silver Age book, technically. But like I sometimes say, one written with a modern audience in mind. So I mean, you guys would know that I am like a nerd of deep lore, the old lore. I all into from I was there from the golden age. I am invested in all of that history, back from the JSA, all that kind of stuff, all the way up.
Yeah, we
So
get it. We older than dirt.
yes, they're fine. I thought this book was like whimsical, basically, because you see in the beginning, Supergirl fights this shark princess thing, which is kind of silly, but get past that. She goes to the bottle city of Candor. And I was like, she's going to patrol how she's gonna also when she goes to Canada because it's like basically Krypton. But she maintains her powers utilizing this yellow ring up in Norcan, which is such a Silver Age thing. And I smiled and smiled and smiled. She does some super stuff like she stops a runaway train, fights a werewolf, just this random crazy shit that's just so Silver Age, like I said. Then in a real deep cut to her Silver Age roots, you get reintroduced to her version of Smallville, which is this little town called Midvale, where her adopted parents, the Danvers, because this is Linda Danvers talking about. as her secret identity. With a move back to their old home, and they invite Kara to visit, which she reluctantly does. There are some other little things and nods that made me smile. Like she used her, what do you call it, a chromatic super comb, is where she would use her comb, this magic or Kryptonian science comb, to run through her hair, and it would turn her blonde hair brown. And then she would put on the glasses and become Linda Danvers, her secret identity, which she used when she was Midville. So I was like, this is great. I love this shit. So when she gets to Midville, sorry, it's just something weird is going on. The whole town seems to have Supergirl fever. There's a Supergirl billboard when you enter town. People on the street wearing Supergirl merch. Restaurants selling Supergirl themed food. She meets her old schoolmate. They talk a little bit. Eventually, she stops a near fatal car crash at Supergirl. The townspeople are initially grateful, but then they turn on her, calling her an imposter and being afraid of her. And then all of a sudden, out of the sky comes another Supergirl. But this Supergirl is a brick house. She is big. I don't want to look like a pervert or anything, but she is drawn, heavier, bustier, some thick legs. I was like, huh? So she's built like
Mm.
yeah. She's a variation of the original Supergirl pictures, like an all blue type of thing, but it's a little different. Um, like I said, this woman looked like I was like, wow. Oh, anyway,
Mm.
so if you have a Reddit, might at least go look at it so you can see what you're talking about. Just look at the pictures.
I
Yeah,
have.
just look.
Yes, I saw her teeth. Okay, she looked like she could
Mhm.
bite through.
Yeah, the teeth. Yeah, she got this little space. Yeah, she's cute, real. So she denounces Kara as a fake, and she attacks her with these weird gadgets. One which like spurts a liquid on Kara's chest and turns her S sibling to purple pea, and then this ray that scrambles Kara's brains for a little bit. So she flies away and tell Kara, like, yo, the tone. You want me to come look for you? So Kara eventually recovers and she heads to her parents' house as Linda Danvers, her secret identity. But when she gets there, her parents don't recognize her. So she'll be like, who are you? We don't know you. And then all of a sudden comes down the stairs the imposter Supergirl. Hair brown, glasses on, saying that she's Linda Danvers, Supergirl's secret identity as well. And what made me laugh is that she looked exactly like Daphne from Scooby Doo. She had the same outfit, headband, little short dress, and it said thicker than a snicker. That was like, okay, this is fun. Um, yeah. So this book was written and enough by Sophie Campbell, who in a little bit of trivia used to go by the name Ross Campbell. She's a trans woman and she is an amazing talent. The book is pitch perfect. It's a pitch perfect Silver Age story without the childishness and silliness that you might get from those older books. She plays up Kara's insecurities about her relevance as a hero. We already got Superman, so that was a nice little, you know, maturing of the storytelling and a little something you wouldn't get back in the day. The art is me to get past page one. It's delightfully cartoony and retro. It would actually make an excellent template for an animated show. It reminded me kind of, I don't know you well, like I said, I'm an art guy, so it reminds me a bit of Amanda Connor, who did Power Girl back in the day, and I think Harley Quinn a little while back. The lines are clean, heavy, just how I like them. The figures in action, dynamic. The colors by, what's her name? Somebody born in Finland. I can't remember her last name, first name, but another woman. The bright, gorgeous. I don't think I've actually seen this type of coloring in a superhero title before. It actually kind of reminded me of like an Archie comic, but it actually really works here. It was just a fantastic read from beginning to end. I am so glad I gave this book a look. It was completely unexpected. I love the whole mystery of the imposter Supergirl, where that's gonna go. It was nice seeing Kara run into her old neighbors and friends and being back in that old small town. I can still go pub those old 50s books and read them. And it felt like the same setting and everything. I love all the little nods to the Silver Age too. Um, I hope that it continues in this vein. I can't wait to read more of it. If we were doing rankings, I would definitely give this 4.95 out of 5. It was that good. This was the best thing I've read in a while. Yeah. I don't know if you guys feel that way about it because I'm the one with all the history and the being deep into that old stuff. So that was probably what made me lean in this direction. But let me know what you think if you read it.
No, I am flabbergasted, delighted for you. I think that this is definite proof of what you can experience when you expand your reading beyond Batman. So, you know, so the draw for me with this book was the art, and like reading it, put into words the I couldn't put into words the draw for me, but you described it to be. It was very colorful. It felt indie book, and in a weird way, it kind of threw my mind back to the Alluhwi comic that we reviewed last week, Harrison's Grave, where the art style is cutesy and cartoony, but not simplistic. If that makes sense, the colors are bright and vibrant, like this.
It
Like,
totally makes sense.
this Technicolor like experience is like Technicolor. If you remember like TV back in the day with Technicolor, it's like Technicolor in 8K HD. If that makes any sense, it was
Yeah, it's a beautiful book to look at.
yeah, it is to look at. And from I'm not the art guy that Wade is, but the art in this is worth the price of admission on this book. Like you, and not as old as dirt as Wade, but I was able to pick up on some like a lot of Silver Age references, and I like the effort put into explaining the visual difference between Kara Danvers and Supergirl. A lot of people in comments kind of like dismiss Superman, like he just puts on a pair of glasses, like how people don't understand that he's Superman. This real mechanical effort to Kara's her human persona, that is the simplistic, oh, she puts on a pair of glasses thing. That was cool. I like there's one point where Kara has a pet. She's always had a super pet, like super pets in general, but her main one is like Streaky, the super cat. I think I got her name right.
Yeah, that's right.
And she there's this line where she tells the cat, "Don't knock the bottle city of candor off the table," which tickled me.
Which is
so
which
very
is such
much.
a cat thing, right? Which is such a
Yeah,
cat thing.
it's such a cat thing, right? Like so, yeah. The book, I am you Wade. The book is definitely a fantastic, amazing. For the
Excellent. Glenn, Michael.
Well, I didn't read it. I saw it. I saw you raving about it in the chat. And so I went and I
Yes.
skimmed it. I skimmed it. Well, I will tell you that skimming it does not give the impression, it doesn't give an impression close to what either of you guys were saying. Okay. Visually, it's it was good. I can't complain with it. It had that clean, simplistic style about it. It's very Wade-like. Okay, thick lines, minimalist design, bright colors. Okay, bright suits a super person is what you kind of expect, right? Uh, I saw a lot of the Silver Age stuff that you guys were referencing as well, where you kind of things that are like classic. You feel like looking at a classic book, right? When you're going through. And so there's that there's of old school comics, like old school superheroine. I mean simple stuff. Kind of like when superheroes just stop speed chases and bank robberies and derailed trains and falling airplanes and stuff like that. You know, that kind of stuff. And I kind of miss that, to be honest.
Don't forget
But the what?
The tree.
The tree. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
the cat, the cat in
There
the
is
tree.
a cat in the tree.
So yeah, I mean, it was a good book to look at. I admired this, very vibrant, and it had that classic feel that makes you feel kind of warm and fuzzy inside. I think I'll give it a read through, because I want to, particularly find out what's going on for that thick superwoman, thick with two C's and a Q, right? But
Right. Damn. I want to see more of her.
yeah,
You're right. You're Glenn. I think you've hit on it. The appeal as for me, it is different from a lot of the grim dark hero fighting hero slants that a lot of comics have been the last decade, and it does lean into that more simple, fun, light storytelling. But like Wade is saying, with modern sensibilities, a bit more depth, a bit more exploration, less childish. So yeah,
Yeah, I find it's like, I guess we began this in the discussion too, but DC is kind of embracing their roots. So they're not trying to take themselves completely seriously anymore. I think that's a lot to do. I know we talk about Joshua Williamson leading shit, but I think that's a lot to do with Mark Wade's influence in the company because he is a DC historian. And he has been in books like Batman, Superman, leaning heavily into the Silver Age. So I think that may be permeating through the company and spreading out a bit. If so, I'm here for it. It's a great flavor and it's a lot of fun. It's later, and like I said, you still add in that modern flavor and sensibility, and you can get some great stories out of it.
yeah. I've actually got a bit to say on the, but yeah, I agree.
But Michael, read this book or
No, I haven't had the joy of reading it yet, but it's in my queue. I plan to read it because I need to understand where this super came from.
I'm right there, with you, buddy. I'm right there with you.
Shout out like to Lamel. I think in the chat the term he used was she's thick like frozen peanut butter. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's all, yeah. Okay, so that's our books for this week. All right, our main topic is tonight is who's winning the comic book race? Is it Marvel or is it DC Comics? All right, so
Image.
for me,
Image is winning.
yeah, okay, yes. Okay, well, who's second? Who's second or third then? Who's second or third?
And
Let's go that way.
that's our show.
All right. So okay. So seriously, right? For me, well, I mean, for pretty much for years, Marvel has been the gold standard. Interconnected storytelling, mature themes, they had it all. But lately, for me, first my take, Marvel feels kind of all over the place. Just these random stories, characters acting totally different from book to book, barely any real cohesion. I mean, you could pick up like five different Marvel books and you would feel like you're reading five different alternate realities. DC, on the other hand, has tightened up their shit, and to me, it's paying off. The books feel connected without being restricted. There's a clear sense of continuity and purpose across the line. You got things like Absolute DC, which is branching off, but still connected to the main line, and a fantastic read. Characters are being respected. They're developing long-term story arcs. There's a real effort to make the universe feel alive and lived in. It's not just Batman or Superman in a vacuum doing the whole thing. They're all tied together in a way that actually enhances each book. It feels very much to me like pre-Infinite Crisis, just around there. And and to see all this while still telling fantastic individual stories. You got writers like I said, like Wade, who clearly love the source material, that aren't afraid to embrace the legacy of these characters. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel all the time or mimic the latest movies, which is what Marvel is doing, letting movies lead them by the nose. It's confident storytelling, and they're hitting out the park as far as concerned. So for me, DC is definitely winning the race. They're blowing Marvel the water. I think sales have shown that the last couple of months as well. Marvel has the potential to win, to catch up. They always had a greater table of characters, I guess, in terms of maybe relatability. Yeah, that's still a thing we worried about, but they are not leveraging what they have to do what they should. They are being driven by the movies, and it feels like the comics are an afterthought. And for me, that is why DC is kicking their ass.
Ooh,
And
can I
that's
go now? Can I go?
sure you can.
All right, I've actually spent time like with notes on this. So excuse me as I get into it. I'm coming at it from more of a numbers perspective, right? All right, so it's from like the industry side, Marvel is still very much in the lead, right? But DC is winning the strategic long-term race. So they're not topping Marvel in raw sales. The sales numbers still favor Marvel,
I
but
thought Marvel won. I thought DC won some month or something had higher sales. Did I
DC
imagine that?
DC has single quarter closed the gap. Marvel
Oh,
lost
okay.
lost 13 points of market share,
Oh,
which
okay.
DC like almost entirely converted. DC is now within 6 points of
That's
Marvel, which
interesting.
is have been I think in decades. After the initial and that was quarter after DC launched their All In initiative. So what they're doing is working. Marvel has kind of extended their lead a bit, but at the disadvantage of everybody else below DC and Marvel. So they've been gobbling up market share for the smaller guys, so like the sub image publishers, to kind of extend their lead a bit. But there are the race between them and Marvel from a numbers industry level perspective is a lot closer than it has been in a while. So while Marvel is still dominant in name recognition and in exposure, they're like you said, they're increasingly dependent on their MCU synergy. And the challenge there is that it's really alienating like the core comic readers, and it's really mushing up their publishing lane. Marvel still has a significant portion of the comic book unit and dollar sales, and a lot of that is kind of supported by the huge visibility of the MCU. The problem here, Marvel Comics is leaning into Marvel Studios. So a lot of the comics are, especially their main titles, mirrors of the MCU continuity. So I can tell you as a long-term fan, as much as I enjoy the MCU overall, I don't like how muddled Marvel Comics is getting for that. Marvel is also leaning in a lot into variant covers and too many events, and the event cycles themselves are too close together. The continuity in Marvel Comics in recent years is lacking. Like you said, Wade, is all over the place. So you might have the same five characters showing up in, like you said, five different books, and the characterization is all over the place. Now, DC, on the other hand, it would be able to line to say that they are playing 4D chess with their publishing strategy. So contributing to their rise is things like the All In initiative. That's one, but DC is definitely leaning into the bookstore, the trade book market, rather than simply remaining dependent on the direct market, which is largely just comic book stores. So DC has started publishing what they call DC's compact comics, which are these like manga size collected editions of like classic stories, which is amazing. But the big thing here is that those compact comics are at a lower price point. So they're leaning into the trade book space with these compact comics. They're also rolling out things like the Absolute Universe initiatives, Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman. I think their bestseller has been Absolute Wonder Woman. So they're kind of like taking a page from the original Marvel Ultimate Universe, where they're like pairing down all the continuity of these characters, putting a little different spin on them, and making these characters very, very accessible without not the underlying lore, right? And they're also leaning in with a lot of success into this multimedia synergy. So instead of doing like Marvel, where they're trying to make the comics resemble the cinematic universe, DC is doing legitimate adaptations and spin-offs. So a show that I really like, My Adventures with Superman, that has been successful. But it a lot of success is that it isn't overwriting the main continuity of Superman. They're very respectful, doing but doing their own thing, doing something a bit more original. If you haven't seen My Adventures of Superman, for sure check it out because it is great. I went into it and I wasn't confident because it was like this young adult office romantic comedy approach, but it is legitimately an amazing take. I see it as one of the best modern takes of Superman in the last decade, easily. And for me, weirdly enough, My Adventures of Superman is the bar that James Gunn has to meet with his Superman movie, but that's a whole different conversation. Anyway, DC is doing really well with expanding into multimedia and doing it in a way that is original and adaptive and additive, which is great. So they're doing novel formats, they're doing digest-sized comics, and they're pricing these comics towards affordability, which is working because it's attracting a lot of new readers, importantly, on their own terms, instead of just trying to piggyback off of what the cinematic universe is doing. Marvel feels weirdly reactive, while DC feels intentional. So Marvel is retrofitting comics. So Kamala Khan is now a mutant after her Disney series. DC is building bridges with My Adventures of Superman. They've got a planned My Adventures with Green Lantern spin-off coming. They've got Batman, the Kid Crusader. That series which was great. So yeah, DC is doing a lot of very cool stuff that is actually working and is getting them new readers and more market share.
I hate that you pronounce Kamala the Donald Trump with Kamala, but whatever.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry, my apologies.
yeah. Anyway, Glenn?
Yeah, let me start by saying, I'm a little okay, because I remember when I came into the group chat and I'm like, yo, y'all need to pay attention to My Adventures with Superman. And none of y'all bother with me. None of y'all bother with me. And then
I was
season
there.
done,
I was there with
season
you.
done, and then y'all come in like, oh my God, y'all need to watch My Adventures with Superman. Yada, 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 yada. I
Were
am
we
turning
were watching it the same
seasoning.
place?
Sir,
Huh?
I
We were
was
all watching
already.
it. I don't remember that.
I was right
Yeah,
But
there
if
with
you
man.
you, man.
if
I
you
was
say
I
so,
right
I
came,
there with you.
apologize. If you say so, I apologize. If that's what happened, I
I'm,
apologize.
I came in,
Glenn,
and that's cool, bro. That's cool, bro. But I remember I came in and I said, hey, yo, y'all should check it out because I'm watching it with my youngest son, little man. He was 12 at the time, and he's enjoying it. And I'm watching him, and I see it. I got it. I understood. They came in, and the reason why it worked so well, Mark, is that they came in with a vision. Like they knew who their audience was from the get go. Their audience was the manga crowd, right? They wanted to get that new up and coming generation, a whole new set of viewers, a whole new audience, and they realized that those guys are growing up in an anime environment, and so they decided to meet them where they're at. So the aesthetics is similar to that. Even the way in which the characters are developed, how they interact. If you watch anime to any extent, you will notice those similarities within it, and it resonates with them. It's also very light-hearted, very fun. It's engaging, right? It's very easy to fall into the characters there and like just be invested in them. It's not a hard press. Okay, from like between episodes 1 and 2, you'd have probably fall in love with one or two characters already because it's like that, right? And we still watch to this day, and it's a really watch. When I saw that they came out with the comic book, I was like, okay, yes, DC is on it. They're doing their thing, and I have to agree with you guys. Right now, I feel DC is in the lead, but my metric is a different one. I gauge who is in the lead by frequency of reference and conversation. If people are talking more about your books, then you're in the lead by as far as I'm concerned. Nobody's having conversations about stuff going on in Marvel. Like what's going on in Marvel? The Doctor Doom stuff is going on, and there's hardly any conversation about that, right? The Venom stuff is going on. There's no conversation about that. You ain't seen it, but there's a lot of talk about Absolute. There's a lot of talk about All In, and the DC books are accessible. Take continuity out of the equation entirely. The DC books are just accessible. You can pick up any one and you're already, you hit the ground running, you're involved. You don't even have to know who these characters are. It's very clear. The story that they're telling, and at no point in time you feel lost or swamped or burdened by anything whatsoever. The continuity is there, it is present in DC. It's almost like a palpable, tangible thing, but it is not oppressive or demanding of you. So, and of course, the characters look cool and they're doing cool shit. And that's like my national anthem. If you want books to sell, you make cool characters and have them do cool shit. It's simple as that. It's not complicated. Marvel, on the other hand, are stuck in boardroom bureaucracy, right? There's no creative energy over at Marvel. It's all machine production. As far as we know, AI could be cranking out Marvel books. We don't even know, right? We don't even know because there's nothing tying them books together, and there's nothing in there that is telling you, love me, okay? Follow me, come with me. There's nothing like that going on over at Marvel. I cannot point at a book in Marvel that be like, yeah, I'm really in for it. Wait, I lie. There's one. It's the Sabretooth book. You see like how that Supergirl book make you all feel?
That's such a
You
random
picked it
pick.
up and you connected with, and at first you're like, this is silliness, but as by the third page and so on, you're involved and you're becoming concerned. Whatever aspect of the book is resonating with you, it does that. Now you're invested in what's going on. That Sabretooth book, again, a random pick. I picked it up because Sabretooth is my boy. I will read anything Sabretooth is on because I like Sabretooth. It's simple mathematics, right? I saw it was set as a period piece, like back in the 90s, I don't know, the 1910s, early of United States, New York, around that time when the Chinese were coming over, the Scottish, Irish were coming over, and there was like the gangs of New York kind of vibes going on, set in an atmosphere like that, a setting like that. And Sabretooth is just a tough in that situation, right? Goes around, flings his weight around. He's a bouncer, he's a bounty killer or whatever for the big head, the big boss, and he's doing his thing, and shit's happening. Okay, you have a kind of mafia type thing going on where we have these gangs, and the gangs are weird gangs. The gangs have like powers, bruv. You have a steampunk gang, you have a gang of Obeah, you check me, you have guys that are well dressed, dapper, prim and proper, kind of, and then you have the Peaky Blinders type guys, that kind of stuff, and this is going on, and tech is being developed, and all the steampunk stuff, and Sabretooth is caught in the middle of that, trying to figure out his life, right? And I'm just enjoying the crap out of it. The books in them are not long, they're short, and I'm all in for that. Otherwise, from that, I don't care. But anything Marvel is doing, except for like some of the Ultimates books, I don't really care. I'm just sitting down waiting for the next Hickman book. Alluhwi is no longer there. Jed McKay is like last man standing, right? If I said it once, I said it 1,000 times. Marvel needs a Stan Lee. They need somebody who understands and knows the continuity and has the power to get focused and on point. They don't have to write, they don't have to edit, they just have to watch the continuity and make sure that everybody is streamlined. And then get people who actually care and know what the story is they want to tell, and make them tell their stories, okay? Make them tell their stories. And you do that, and it will be fine. You take an Al Ewing, listen, you get Al Ewing back, okay? And you get Jed McKay, and you just get them guys a good editor and just allow them mans to work. Okay, Al Ewing is great when he has somebody that is solid guiding him and giving him boundaries. Because if you let that man run too far, he starts doing wild shit. Okay, he starts going in over his head. But if he's part of a team or he knows like this is the boundaries, he is amazing. Jed McKay is absolutely fantastic, and that man is a continuity repository. Use that. God damn it. Jed McKay knows like the tiniest, most random, absurd fact in Marvel continuity, and he knows them. You can quiz this man about anything, and he will tell you. Al Ewing is like the continuity web weaver. He's like Madam Web, okay, for Marvel continuity. The man can anything work. He's like a lesser version of Jonathan Hickman, right? He's Jonathan Hickman light. I can't believe. But DC good work. Props to them. I'm a DC tourist. I on occasion. I pre some books. Okay, I have a good time. DC never disappoints me in having a good time. All right. They know how to make their character look epic, to look godly, to look badass. You check me? And that's what we want from our heroes. We want our heroes to be heroic. We don't want them having crisis of identity crisis and stuff like that. We want crisis to be on infinite earths, not of psychology, not mental state and politics. That's not what we want. Check. That's all I got.
So when you say Ewing left, you meant like left or just checked out mentally? He's still at Marvel.
Ewing?
Yeah,
Ewing ain't
Ewing
at
is he's doing Thor. Yeah,
he's
doing
doing
that.
well that's probably his book because he's on the Venom book, is he?
I I wouldn't know about Venom.
He
I don't
was
understand.
doing Venom. He did Venom after Kate. He did that whole run with the what's his name? Mobius or whatever his name was. He did that whole stuff. But I don't think he was there because he was looking to exit to go over and start writing for DC. That was
Yeah.
the plan.
Immortal Thor, I think that is wrapping up, and that has been a very interesting book. Like I said, you said he's very innovative. He did a book that which was choose your owner type story in Thor. I was blown away. But do you think that the reason Marvel seems so rudderless is just because they don't have an editor, somebody externally guiding things? I think they understand that is a problem, but I think the problem is that, like you said, boardroom stuff, the bureaucracy, is that they have to stick to this corporate mandate of MCU synergy. I think that's what's hamstringing the creatives. I don't think they want to do what they do. I think they don't have a choice.
I was we were talking about this in like the pre-show where for me I was trying to compare Kevin Feige to James Gunn, right? No, Kevin Feige earned his stripes. He was like a junior producer on the Fox era X-Men movies from like the first X-Men movie, and he literally worked his way up to where he is now in charge of the MCU. Versus James Gunn, who he seems to me more like a comic book fan who has managed to turn his fandom into his day job, right? So Kevin Feige seems more film producer with comic book interests, whereas James Gunn feels like a comic book fanboy who has a really cool job. That's probably just my impression. But I
But
do agree with you, Glenn. There's a lot of, I guess, Disney level corporate demands on the creative side, because the MCU bleed through or the influence on Marvel Comics is stark.
yeah, because there's nobody who cares about, man. What was it? I We watched, by Perch, and the takeaway from that video, it was very grim. The takeaway from that video is that there is nobody over at Marvel who has the power to influence how things go that actually cares about the comics over there. Nobody. There's nobody of influence over there cares about the comics. They're churning these things out mindlessly, right? There's nobody cares. And yes, you need somebody to care in a position of influence over there to guide the books. You need a cohesive vision. I said this before on the previous episode. DC is working like clockwork because there's two men of visions working as a team, Snyder and Williamson. Them guys are the main reason why it is that DC is running as smooth as it is. Them guys are influencing the writers on their team. They share the same vision. And those guys have been paying very close attention to what the community has been saying. There are some YouTubers that over the years, those particular YouTubers, they actually, when they open their mouth, sense them out. These people know what they're talking about. And they spoke about the state of things and how it is, the steps that can be taken, very simple steps, to maintain your market share and revitalize interest within the comic books. Okay, we've seen those techniques and strategies being employed by the indie companies in them, and it's been working to some success. But again, the indies can only do so much because they're the indies, they're not the big two, right? So the influence will not be felt as strongly, but the influence is significant enough that you notice them. You've been seeing the books that have been coming out of the indie spaces. Them books is flames, right? So when DC come and DC starts making, um, emphasizing, putting emphasis on their trades, putting emphasis on creating tankobon size, um, versions of their comics, Silver Age stuff, Golden Age stuff, 90s and 80s stuff, the more iconic storylines, and just putting them out easily accessible at a low price point, cheap paper, easy to get, right? That was a no-brainer move, especially when you just take your two eyes and you look out there into the market and see what is going on in the market. Where are your competitors? Where are they at physically? Where are they at from a price point? Where are they at in terms of marketing? What are they doing that you're not doing? You see that, you do it. It's not that hard. And the benefit that the big two have is that they got like what, 80 years worth of stories that ain't gonna cost them no extra to just make available again. It ain't hard. It ain't rocket science. But DC is on it. They're doing it. They ain't losing nothing for it. And they have passionate people right now who are having fun writing the stories that they're writing and care about it. I watch Snyder come on and do an interview with Sasha from Casually Comics. Sasha is a person that loves comics. You can tell it comes out in her personality. And Snyder comes on, and Snyder comes with that same energy, that same exact energy, right? Love comics, love working on comics, thinks comics are cool, thinks the fans are awesome, and thinks that Sasha is awesome. And they just talk very hype about the forthcoming books. Then he goes comic pop and he speaks with Sal. Sal loves comics, right? With a passion. Not like not like Comics Explained, right? Deep down, like us, how we love comics. Sal loves comics, and Sal talks about comics like that. He's very respectful and he's very knowledgeable. And Snyder comes on there, okay? He comes on there after Williamson come on there. And Williamson would do a podcast, hour-long podcast with Sal, just talking with the fans, talking up the books, talking about the stuff that they love. They ain't chatting about nothing but comics, how they love comics and what's coming up and so on. And they hype up what's coming up and they give you little sneak peeks and stuff like that. They're doing what Stanley used, right? Passionate, and they're talking about it and they're with the fans and they're connecting with that love for comics and good writing. And they try to be honest. Yeah, they mess up. They admit about how they messed up in the past, stories they thought was good that wasn't good, how they as human beings had to overcome own nonsense, and they connect with the fans. What is the end result of that? Interest in Absolute. Absolute comes out, deliver. The thing is good, it's exciting, it's cool. And so you have passionate writers who are fun and they love what they're writing and they want to give you cool stuff. And here it is, cool stuff. They talk it, they deliver it. It done right there. Of course, DC is going to win. Marvel ain't doing nothing like that. You ain't see a single writer for Marvel come on any YouTuber's video and try to connect with any fan. None. Not one. Not one. They don't
But
care.
that kind of approach, I think, what has me personally excited about James Gunn, and what he's doing, particularly with the upcoming Superman movie. I saw the trailer and I love the trailer, but James Gunn is taking that kind of similar approach. Somebody who honestly enjoys the comics and that passion is apparent. I like what he's doing in the promotion, in the production of the Superman movie. He was openly talking on his social media about here are the comics that influenced the story I'm going to tell with this movie. He listed All-Star Superman, Birthright in there by Marc Wade in there. And what always low-key pisses me off is when you're hearing about a director or a writer coming onto a Marvel movie or a Marvel TV show, and one of the first things they're gonna say is, "Oh, I don't read comics, but," or I don't know anything about this character, but I'm telling the story." And I'm like, what? Like, so I mean, I'm with you, Glenn. I think everything you said about the comic side with Snyder and Williamson just talking comics and their passion and their love for it. I think that's great. I think if James Gunn can find similar people on the cinema and TV side, people who are passionate about comics, they're not in it for the corporate side of things. They just want to take their passion for these characters and tell good cinematic stories, good streaming stories, good TV stories. And I'm right with you. If DC can keep leveraging this honest passion, this of knowledge and respect for the characters and apply it to the cinema side, they're gonna be killing it. Straight up. Hey Wade, Michael, when I go Wade, are
Yeah,
you
I'm
there
still. I know. I
drinking
can.
rum
No,
sours?
I am drinking rum sour, but and I could not
Wade
find
of
the.
sleep.
I cannot. No, I can't find like the microphone button. Sorry. Yeah. Right.
It sounds
Okay.
like
Yeah.
you're drunk, Wade.
Maybe. Yeah. Just a little bit. No, I agree with everything you guys are saying. We got on the peripheral. We got the image guys doing some fantastic, innovative, brand new work and stuff that we haven't seen before. But we still need the workhorses and the solid basics superhero stuff that we get from Marvel and DC. And I think, like you said, DC has, I guess they realized they were losing in terms of the movies and the overall type of sales based on that. And they guys decided that they're gonna buckle down and work with what they have, which is the comics. And maybe that was a good thing. That Zack Snyder messed up before. And if not, we probably having DC books that look a lot like whatever they would have been doing then.
You can't say that in public. You can't let these Snyder Bros come for us, man.
I
Come
don't care
on.
about them. I don't care about them or their movies. The only watchable one was Man of Steel, in my opinion. I'm gonna go on record saying that. So if y'all want to come for anybody, come for me. Leave the other guys out of it. So we're all the better for that having failed because now we're actually getting people playing with these books and not just churning out lazy slot what was the word again? Synergy, which I hate to hear anything about. I remember when Marvel was trying, we had the animated Avengers, Earth Mightiest Heroes, and we have Spectacular Spider-Man. Two fantastic shows. And because of the movies, we lost both of them. Especially with Avengers, we got the new Avengers Assemble cartoon, which was a watered down, poorly animated, juvenile type of movie trash. It's dreadful. And then you have books
Tell us
like
how you really feel. Go on.
the Avengers, which has the Avengers lineup is completely filled with the roster that you see from the movies. And that is just annoying. It rubs me the wrong way. I don't know if it actually helps them sell any more comics, but it hamstrings the storytelling. It makes the books predictable. And you got these characters going in directions they wouldn't ordinarily go, doing things they wouldn't ordinarily do. And I guess for the casual fan who's walking up on the store and pick up one of these books because they watched the movie and just gonna read one issue or two is fine. But they're definitely alienating the long-term fans. I read most of these Marvel books out of a sense of being a completist or being loyal. Being loyal is the only reason I read Amazing Spider-Man still. Because to be honest, it's been a terrible book for quite a while. And this new run isn't any better. It's just barely serviceable. And there's so many things you could be doing with Spider-Man. I remember the last time Spider-Man was good with this, the creator himself, Dan Slott. And since then they haven't been doing anything with him. They've had this nonsense with Norman turning good, Peter just being, like I said, Johnny's not boy, and he can keep horror. And last story was boring. Zeb Wells keeps teasing the marriage part, and he does this plot with Mary Jane and being married to another day. It's just bad. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know where they're taking the from because they don't even reflect the Spider-Man movies anyway. And I guess they're just coasting on their name, and coasting on their market visibility. Everybody knows Spider-Man, he's a top star. So there's no effort. And until they start, I guess, until people like me and you, they stop reading books, they have no reason to innovate or do anything better. So just stuck in a rut with Marvel. I don't know what's going to get them to change. But I'm glad that DC is there to give me books with Supergirl, Absolute Batman, regular Batman, Detective Comics featuring Batman, Man Long Halloween. Just need to stop me when you're ready.
You just listening about my books, though. All right,
Yeah,
let me
you heard
just
it that
wrap this show up.
you heard the dance lot thing too, or you hear that?
Oh, I heard the dance lot thing,
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
like how we're all right. We're gonna do an entire segment in another episode where we get a crucify. We get to roast you on this supposed dance lot love.
Yeah, that's fine. I have my records in place that shows that I love the dance lot from. It's not a retcon, it is actual history. I admit I was not a fan in the beginning, but I quickly jumped
You
on it.
you were watching dance lot in Curse weekly.
Yes, I
We,
admit that.
you were rage reading Spider Man.
I admit that. But then his master plan, when I saw the hints of his master plan, I jumped
The
on
hint
board.
of it. Wait, remember? I distinctly remember telling you to give Dan Slot a chance because for me, big time with Dan Slot was my return to Spider-Man after the Clone Saga. That was my first. That was my legitimate first. Big time was the first Spider-Man comic I read since the Clone Saga. That it was out of Spider-Man, and Dan Slot brought me back in. And I remember telling you, look, give him a chance. Clearly, this man's a plan. Wait to see what it turns out. And you were full of vitriol and venom. for Dan Slott. I know you might
Yes.
think Dan Slott, but
Uh,
man, whatever.
yeah, I've seen the late. I can admit, listen, as hard as it is to believe, I'm not a perfect man. I know you may think so, but I'm not. So, I can admit when I was wrong, and I was wrong. Yeah. So, no, I let you guys wrong. I love his Fantastic Four. If he's Superman, I might think about Bendis. No, he's now doing Superman. So I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to that.
he's coming in to
Yeah,
Superman.
yeah, yeah. It's gonna be him, Williamson, and Mark Wade. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. So yeah. So that's where I am in terms of the overall race and what the companies are doing. So I guess we'll just see how it plays out. I keep saying that I'm hoping for the implosion of the MCU so that comics can come back to the fans and not the movie fans. So
Now I don't want that. I think
I want that though.
the MCU. Let me give the MCU some credit. The MCU took comic books mainstream in a way that they weren't
Well,
before,
I don't
and
want him mainstream.
that's a
I
good
don't
thing.
want
But
I don't
that's
want
that's
him
a
mainstream.
good thing. Like comic book
No,
fans are no
no,
longer like weird little nerds in the corner.
really
Nah,
have
nah, I
definitely
don't
have the
agree.
books in the state they are. Exactly. I want them to be niche again so they can get comic stories.
It
I don't want the regular movie more dirty, grubby paws on my comics. Because look what they're doing with them.
the
Look what they're
MCU
doing.
didn't make people realize that comics exist. We always knew comics exist, and people there will always be people discovering the comics. Now, what it was, it did spark interest. Yes, we these sort of things tend to happen anytime an adaptation comes out. There's a spike in interest for the source material, but then what do you do when you have that attention? That is what's important, right? But that, man, I have PTSD over the MCU. Okay, first three phases, perfection, and then
Bro.
when Thanos story ended, I ended
it
with the MCU. There's
it went
nothing else there.
downhill. Paul
Right.
Thanos has been
That
a nuclear dumpster fire.
that's
Yeah,
a whole
I, and
discussion by itself,
and
right?
I legitimately do not know any comic fans who were there before the MCU that like the MCU still. Everybody I know that loves the MCU still only came on board with the movies. That's something.
There's a whole generation. Listen, we talk about, right? We would guard these things. They call us gatekeepers and stuff like that, right? But we would guard these things and we would make noise and be like a menace and nitpick because we understand how important getting it right is. Now they say, okay, you guys, y'all fuss too much. It's not that serious, right? Now the birds have come home to roost, and what we're seeing now is a whole generation of people whose understanding of these characters as the MCU characters, the MCU's version of things alone. I have to be in groups with people and hearing them talk. They would say things, they would make matchups with no understanding. And then when you give them the little bit of information, you can see this whole mind blown situation happening for them. And it happens over and over again. It may seem like a small thing. Who cares about it, right? But the fact of the matter is, what they saw on screen, that is their reality. That's their first introduction to the character. And their first introduction to a character is an incorrect one. It's a flawed version of the character. It's a weaker version of the character. It's a suckier version of the character. So they don't get to experience the joys of establishing their own relationship with that character as the character is. Instead, they have this junk to go off of. You know, I mean, when you tell a man like, yo, Adam Warlock is the only person that Thanos actually respects, and then you explain why that is, then they're like, so what is this then? What did I just watch? It's like, well, I can't tell you what that is, but that's what we're left with.
Yeah,
it
you're
made
right.
me.
Because if you take something you watched, it was what was X-Men Last Stand, I can't remember which one it was. But something that's poorly made is that, and then you give somebody, or you put the Dark Phoenix side of the actual book from Claremont and burn it from them. They're like
Mm.
it's like night and day, two completely different things, and it makes me sad to know that this is what people experience is with these stories when it's so much richer and so much better. But because this is more accessible, more mainstream, as television or movies, it's a more accepted, more seen version. It
Mm.
breaks my heart, but it is what it is.
I am on board with anything that increases accessibility for fans. So there are people whose first introduction to Batman was Batman the Animated Series, whose first introduction. There are people who only know John Stewart as Green Lantern. They don't care about Hal Jordan or Guy Gardner or anything like that, right? Those have been their entry points. The weakness, I think, with the MCU is that they're appealing to the lowest common denominator and they're simplifying things. They've got what 2 hours of runtime to tell a story that spanned how many ever issues. So they're going to simplify it. They're bringing in people who have no connection to the characters, the source material, to tell these stories, and I think that's a disservice. There's also the overarching mandate from Disney, which is playing into things, right? So yeah, I can definitely get your perspective, and there's a part of me that agrees with you. The MCU versions of these characters are weaker derivatives. I get that, but
But
they're
Mark, sorry to cut you off here, right, Mark? But there's another thing that we need to establish here. We can't just talk about the MCU as one singular thing. We have to differentiate between the phases of the MCU because there's pre-endgame and post-endgame. Those are two different animals, two completely different beasts, right? Pre-endgame had a plan. Post-endgame thought that it had a plan, and it did have a plan, but its plan was utter shite.
fair, right? And like I said, this could be a whole different conversation. I don't want
Yeah,
to get too
yeah.
deep into this, but accessibility is important. The cinematic side has boosted visibility and accessibility, but I can agree that application has been flawed. Sure. So
Well,
Wade,
I don't know.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Go ahead, go ahead.
I don't really know much about the MCU making things more accessible and increase accessibility because it wasn't like you're finding you see Dark Phoenix. It's not like you could just go and find Dark Phoenix trades available. You know what I'm saying? And the stories in them that you're seeing on in the MCU have nothing to do with their comic book counterpart. Nothing.
fair. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, they
yeah.
only have characters with the same name. So you're not really bringing people in. You're making people confused. That's what you're doing. They didn't do a very good job connecting the MCU to comics. All they did was that they made the comics a slave to the MCU. And all they did was just piss us off. Because now the thing that we understood became something completely unrecognizable for a bunch of people that have no interest in it. There's none.
I think I still remember standing in line to buy a ticket for a movie. I don't remember which movie it was. What stands out for me were these two guys in some white beater shirts. They look like they just came from a cruise. They still had like little red cups, plastic cups with alcohol in it, I guess. And the guy in front of me is talking about how he can't wait to see. Oh, this was Justice League. He can't wait to see Thanos wash off the Justice League. And I was like, bro, I would love to see that too. But he is obviously confusing Thanos and Darkseid. But he was hyped for what he was talking about. So yeah.
I will
Yeah,
say
that's
this
just
though.
honest.
I will say this. I am very grateful for the MCU. All right. It gave us an opportunity to see our heroes represented in with using modern technology to bring them to life. Like the Hulk, we've never seen a Hulk so clean, right? I've never seen Thor more glorious, right? I never thought that Iron Man was actually somebody to give a crap about. The MCU did that. So I will give it its props. I'm not a daddy down on everything, a Debbie down on everything. It's just that it hurt when you're like, yeah, you're going to show these characters and we're going to recognize them and we're going to see them doing the things that made us fall in love with them. Instead, we got something foreign. I want to see my Norinrad, but I know I ain't going to see Norinrad again. And that's very sad for me as a Silver Surfer fan. That I know I ain't going to see another Silver Surfer after this movie. We ain't going to see him again, right? We ain't going to get that opportunity again. I really doubt it. So here's that one chance to see it, and it's not happening. And I don't know what it was like for you guys seeing your heroes represented in the MCU, how excited, how content you were with the representation of your characters. I don't know. I'll leave that to you guys.
For me,
For
it's
me,
kind of
I I won't say this much for the MCU though, is that
okay. For me, I like in the
this
MCU
well,
too. Hello, you saying something or all right? I was saying for me, I like in the MCU to okay, like you met this girl, this hot girl, you all had this amazing relationship in the beginning. Everything was good, the sex was good, the conversation was good, and then after 6 months, you find out that she gave you chlamydia. So that's where I am with the MCU. It was fine at first, but now
Sorry,
I
what?
feel
Sorry, what? You find out after 6 months she gives you chlamydia?
she
What?
gave you chlamydia. Yeah, that's how I feel about the MCU. It was all fantastic in the beginning, and it's all turned to shit. So I don't know if I can
first,
appreciate what was in the beginning. I wish I had never met her. So I wish that
Um,
that's how I feel about the MCU.
for me, the best, the pinnacle of the MCU for me
I
is
feel like there's
Captain
something you
America.
like.
Oh, the pinnacle of the MCU for me is still Captain America: the Winter Soldier.
That's fair. That's
That was
fair.
pitch perfect, and the MCU made me care about Steve Rogers, Captain America. He wasn't.
Boy, I don't understand.
He like Captain America was never like a mainstay character for me.
Don't
He's a
upset me.
guy. He's a guy wrapping a flag, throwing a frisbee.
And Captain America throws his mighty shield. Captain's the greatest.
Anyway, whatever. I'm dying.
Oh, those who chose to oppose his shield was healed. I don't think he's all like that. Anyway, yeah, I agree with you. So, yeah, I guess we should wrap up now. It's been great. I cannot wait to come back to see what we have to talk about next week. Gibson, as usual, you're going to take us out with the housekeeping.
For sure. All right. So, thanks again, folks, for being here for another episode 4 of the Four Outsiders Comics podcast. Again, it's powered by Skylarkin Media. If you are liking what you hear and you want to hear more, you can definitely follow this show on YouTube and Spotify. Episodes will be up on Mondays, let's say by 8 p.m. on Mondays. So you definitely check out the show, the new episodes on those platforms on Mondays as well. Now, to support what we do here with the Four Outsiders Comics podcast, you can definitely follow Alluhwi Comics on Instagram or on YouTube. We're also on TikTok and with this show on Spotify. And definitely, you can support some amazing upcoming indie creators from the Caribbean and beyond by purchasing issues either in digital or print on shop.alluhwicomics.com. That's ALLUHWI comics COMICS.com. The books are at a wonderful, affordable price point, and your support helps us do more episodes like this. So, until next time, This has been episode 4 of the Four Outsiders Comics podcast. I am Mark.
I'm Wade Rum Sour Alleyne.
I'm Glen.
And this is Michael from Bleecker Street.
Glen, he beat you again, Glen.
Yeah, boy.
Anyway, we are out and we'll see you next week.